Hello, it's a lovely good evening and welcome to Camnet TV World News. To present, my name is Jeffrey Ziambo. For all those watching around Lusaka and Zambia and around the world. Top stories in the news tonight: 8 bodies of the 13 Great East Road accident victims put to rest. NABS former President Edgar Lungu's associate Vauden Findlay. Government clarifies on farmer input support program conditions. In international news, over 300 people die in flooding in Nigeria. In sports news, CHIPOLOPOLO boys wind up BAMAKO assignment.
In our quest to save nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RainGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Another news in detail. Business has come to a standstill at Pamozi Cooperative Market in Chinika Ward 11 of Lusaka's Kanyama constituency, as the market has been in a blackout with no electricity for 4 days after the market chairman allegedly misappropriated funds meant for electricity. In interviews with Camnet News, the traders explained that the market has one ZESCO prepaid meter and that payments are made through the market chairman, but say there is no way of holding him accountable on the funds. Meanwhile, the accused chairman, Given Mianda, says he will address the traders soon to iron out issues. More in this report.
Electricity is an important component in many businesses, more so at a marketplace, as this has a variety of businesses such as welding, butcheries, saloons, and barber shops, which are dependent on electricity to survive. Pamozi Market in Chinika Ward of Kanyama constituency in Lusaka has, however, been in a 4-day power outage, bringing businesses to a standstill, as money meant for the one prepaid ZESCO meter at the market has allegedly been mismanaged by the market chairperson Given Mianda. The traders at the cooperative market explained that they contribute varying amounts of 150 kwacha or 200 kwacha per month to the market chairperson for the ZESCO prepaid meter, but say they have no way of keeping the chairman accountable. The aggrieved traders further say the current scenario proves their concern, as they paid for electricity at the beginning of the month, but say it has already run out, adding that no one knows if the chairman has been misappropriating funds or paying the full amount to ZESCO.
And then man just think 2 days, 1 week to be my right. And then she made sense that funda my light. Yeah, when pezera, ndram tsungira bana. Sema we do petiti, ndine we doing. Tupembako government vitandize ko mtuone kama prepaid ya beta mtikile ko shop by shop tapapata tagwada tapapata shop by shop ole atacha ma prepaid mtikile ko market not market prepaid mozi
ata so tatrepata business umu so twafirishe niko banta kuri ko umu na motredisha ko family yes kwa mayuth kama njini twafwe niko ama light a challenge tukwete kuno
bama sanga chama ni uyu mati navela kwa chacha mukaenda ko bakuru bamuka market mukareka problem bayanga ili yonse amene bafuna kumutima bakamba timacha zanga nikafuna kasi nafune saza yaka
Fata tukwete business ba mtala wani. Chishi ba prepaid yo mabiko mgachidishani kaba mabika poshani chaba shani kanji.
Other traders have further accused the chairman of working with political party cadres from the current administration to pocket funds at the fee-paying toilet at the market, which was built collectively using funds from traders almost 6 months ago.
We are suggesting that Mr. Nkombo must understand that we have got cadres, UPND cadre, a branch chairman for Kalonje branch. He's the one who took over as chairman for UPND of the market. He has been the treasurer and the chairman at the same time. So he can now not account for the money that has been collected. The reason why now we are having these challenges. We have no management at the market. The market is being run by UPND cadres. Some don't have even stored in the market. So I challenge you to talk to him. He's there in the market.
Meanwhile, the accused chairman, Given Mianda, says he will address the traders on the concerns raised.
But we haven't yet addressed them, the home marketeers, to address them how we use that power. Because last month, it's when they installed that power, it was on, I think it was on 10th. So by month end, then we counted as if it was almost a month. But we did not manage to tell them, to tell them how we used those powers. But this is now the 4 months which we wanted to tell them now how we used those powers.
The complainants have called on the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to conduct an inspection at the market, adding that the position of market chairperson should be depoliticized, stating that this changed with each administration. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Kamala Ward 5 Councillor Mainda Simata says overall development of the country at grassroots level can be attributed to mismanagement of funds at local authorities as money meant for development is being diverted. Speaking in relation to the ongoing financial audit at the Lusaka City Council LCC, Mr. Simata, who is also a member of the auditing committee at the council, says ongoing investigations show the loss of millions of kwacha against the backdrop of the lack of street lighting, poor sewer systems, and other challenges in communities. Meanwhile, in a separate interview, United, Prosperous, and Peaceful Zambia UPPZ Secretary General Kondwelani Sakala says there is need for the Anti-Corruption Commission SCC to move in on this financial mismanagement and bring the offenders to book, stating that citizens are tired of hearing financial mismanagement reports with no action. More in this report.
Local authorities in Zambia have the mandate of spearheading development at grassroots level through ensuring that roads and bridges are well maintained, monitoring environmental health, providing street lighting, and ensuring that public transport is in order, among other duties. The full efficiency of local authorities has, however, been questioned by different stakeholders, as many local authorities seem to be struggling in carrying out their duties, despite generating a lot of revenue from billboards and other areas. An ongoing financial audit at the Lusaka City Council LCC seems to have answered the questions as to why many local authorities have not been up to standard in performing their duties, as the audit reviews the misappropriation of millions of kwacha. Lusaka's Kamala Ward 5 Councillor Mainda Simata, who sits as member of the auditing committee at the Lusaka City Council LCC, reviews that wards have not been receiving ward development funds, which are separate from the constituency development fund, on the basis that local authorities do not have money, while millions of kwacha are being misappropriated.
But as you are aware, there's a lot of theft and looting and financial leakages that are happening at Lusaka City Council. And as councillors, as a member of the audit committee, we feel that as long as these financial leakages and thefts continue, we are never ever going to see the Ward Development Fund. And I think it's a disservice and it's a disadvantage to the community members, because these are the funds which are there to supplement the CDF, and these are funds which are supposed to take care of some of the small projects, like, for instance, in my ward, erecting a vegetable shed at a market, patching up potholes, putting up speed humps, fixing broken streetlights and whatnot.
In a separate interview, United, Prosperous and Peaceful Zambia UPPZ Secretary General Kondwelani Sakala says there is need for the Anti-Corruption Commission SCC to act on such findings, as the information will otherwise serve no purpose, just like other financial reports the country has been receiving.
We need the attention of SEC to come on board and fight the corruption that is being preached about. This time around, we will not spare SEC. It shouldn't be a zealous SEC in selective issues. We want even the issues that are being unearthed by the auditing for SEC to come in. We have seen the local government where people go unpaid for many months, and yet people are stealing the money. And yet people are going scot-free without being arrested, without reports of what has happened to a few that have been discovered corrupt.
Zambia by 2030 hopes to become a prosperous middle-income country, but this will mean that local authorities should perform at optimum level. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
A representative of 8 families that lost their breadwinners in the Saturday road accident along the Great East Road in Lusaka have called on government to consider providing employment for surviving family members who have been robbed of their sources of income. Speaking at the church service of the 8 victims in Lusaka Tuesday, a representative says most of those who died in the accident were their families' hope, and says life will be devastating to the remaining family members if they do not receive support. Meanwhile, Vice President Mtalena Lumango has directed the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Ministry of Infrastructure to ensure that the framework on the prevention of unnecessary accidents is enforced. The Vice President says government is concerned with the level at which the country is recording road traffic accidents, which she says is unacceptable. More in this report.
13 families left broken, shattered and devastated, not knowing that the early mornings of Saturday 24th September 2022 was the last they would hear from their beloved family members who perished in a tragic road accident at the main entrance of the University of Zambia in Lusaka, which has left 2 survivors battling for their lives to tell the tale. Emotions kept pouring as thousands of mourners today, Tuesday, 28 September 2022, gathered at Kaunda Square Catholic Church to pay their last respect to the victims, or among them a man who has left behind a pregnant wife. Among the 8 bodies that were brought at the church ground was that of a former ICT graduate from the University of Zambia who graduated in April of 2022. A friend to the deceased could not hold her tears as she described him as a loving person who brought joy wherever he stepped his feet.
We began our journey with NABS in 2018. We faced various challenges, but we emerged victorious and graduated in April this year. This was selfless. His fun spirit was so infectious and charmed everyone who met him. For this reason, he will be dearly loved. The scar that he has caused us will never be forgotten. It is heartbreaking to see like this Marcus after graduating from the University of Zambia earlier this year. Goodbye, our brother.
And a representative of the family to the deceased has asked the government to consider providing employment to the family members of those who have been left behind as their breadwinners are now gone.
I'm very devastated because whoever have been talked over life history, they are productive young men and women, and I'm very sad to hear whatever they are. Therefore, before I say, please, honorable ministers, consider these people who have their families for jobs if they are able to be there.
Meanwhile, Kaunda Square St. Margaret's UCZ Reverend Harriet Kapea took time to encourage mourners to continue looking to God for comfort.
We want to know that this body in which we are living is a temporal body. Just try not to apply glycerin. The same body will start tearing apart. Even when yourself you are still living in there. And this body cannot be dependent on. Therefore, I am saying, let us set our eyes on things above. Hallelujah.
And Vice President Mutanena Lumango, who was represented by Minister of Green Economy and Environment Collins Nzovu, has directed the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Infrastructure to ensure the policy framework on the prevention of accidents are effected.
In this regard, I direct, meaning the Vice President directs the Ministries of Home Affairs, Transport and Logistics and Infrastructure to ensure that the policy framework on the prevention of such unnecessary road traffic accidents is strengthened and that laws that govern transport and road traffic are enforced without exception.
But I wish to request as Member of Parliament that the two ministries should work round the clock to investigate what really caused this accident, so that whatever information comes out of there must be conveyed to the bereaved families, and I'm sure this will somehow console them. I know they will not get their beloved ones back.
The 8, who included Sande Chileshe, the driver of the bus, Musa Mwanza, the conductor, Makedis Katemba, Nancy Chombana Kazwe, Namatama Precious Lushi, Miriam Ngolube, Moses Ngware, and Vines Shawamwale have since been put to rest at Mitumbi Cemetery in Munadi constituency of Lusaka. May the souls of the departed continue to rest in eternal peace. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Government says no changes have been made to the Farmer Input Support Program under the Ministry of Agriculture. In an interview, Director Spokesperson in the Ministry of Information and Media, Tabo Kawana, says all the frenzy being created by political opponents of government should be treated as false. Mr. Kawana notes that the protest by Opposition Patriotic Front member Chishimba Kambwili is not reflective of what is obtaining on the ground and mere political maneuvers aimed at disparaging the government. Early, Mr. Kambwili undertook a long protest against what he terms as new conditions of beneficiaries on the Farmer Input Support Program. Mr. Kambwili alleges that government has removed a number of beneficiaries who are on social cash transfer, adding that one can only benefit from one government-aided program. More in this report.
Government's emphasis on cleaning up the system in all sectors, among them agriculture, and the program under it, the Farmer Input Support Program, has angered Patriotic Front member Chishimba Kambwili. Mid-September 2022, Minister of Agriculture Mutolo Piri said government wants to ensure that only 1,024,434 vulnerable but viable farmers get their inputs. Government has 4 conditions to which one can benefit from the program of fertilizer support program, such as being a holder of a green national registration card belonging to a cooperative, among others. This reminder by government to the farmers has been described by Mr. Kambwili as retrogressive, forcing him out of his comfort zone to the graveyard in protest against these conditions.
FISIP is a one-off thing. It only comes once in a year. While as the social cash transfer, it's money that you receive every day. And surely, can you imagine that one who gets 200 kwacha per month? Ultimately, what is going to happen? Even the production of maize will go down. So it is not that people must have a multiplicity of empowerments to enjoy, but this FISIP one is a special one. Social cash transfer was brought to help the vulnerables in their day-to-day life. That was the basis.
Meanwhile, Director Spokesperson in the Ministry of Information and Media, Tabo Kawana, says government has not changed any conditions on which one can benefit from the Farmer Input Support Program.
All these assertions of talking about those that are retired not being able to access FISIP, those that are on NAPSA not being able to access FISIP, all those are nothing but pure lies and innuendos by those that want to paint the government black. The conditions for getting FISIP are simply 4 conditions. Number 1 is that you must have your NRC. You must be a Zambian. And number 2, you must have your 400 kwacha. And number 3, you must be a small-scale farmer, meaning that you are cultivating less than 5 acres. And number 4, you must belong to a cooperative. Outside these parameters, there are no other conditions.
Mr. Kawana further explains that the issue of the social cash transfer is not an impediment for one to benefit from FISIP.
To do with social cash transfer is that under the Ministry of Community Development, you either get social cash transfer, as in the cash, or you get the food security pack, which is your maize, seed, and fertilizer. So surely you cannot go and receive maize and fertilizer and seed from community development and still come and access FISIP. That is duplicity. And these are programs for government, for the people. So we have to ensure that everybody gets a share who is eligible, who is vulnerable, who is qualified to be able to get a share.
The government of Zambia has since 2002 been funding Farmer Input Support Program aimed at sustaining food security at both household and national level under the Ministry of Agriculture. Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former Konkola Copper Mines Provisional Liquidator Milingo Lungu has asked the Constitutional Court to dismiss the cross petition filed by the state before court, arguing that the state cannot challenge its own action. This is in a case in which Mr. Milingo Lungu has petitioned the government claiming to have negotiated for his freedom with President Hakainde Hichilema's principal private secretary, legal advisor, the Attorney General, Solicitor General, the Administrator General, and the DPP, said his rearrest had no legal effect owing to the discontinuance of his criminal proceedings by the latter. The petitioner claims he was granted immunity by the suspended Director of Public Prosecution, Lillian Seyunyi, whose office is part of government, hence the Attorney General cannot challenge its action. More in this report.
Former Konkola Copper Mines Provisional Liquidator Milingo Lungu has maintained his argument before the Constitutional Court that he was granted immunity by the state. Mr. Lungu has petitioned government and its agent before the Constitutional Court over his rearrest in April this year on allegation that he bought a house using illegal gains when he entered into an agreement to exempt him from criminal prosecution after he rendered the mining firm's account and relinquished his position. Still claims that suspended Director of Public Prosecution Lillian Seyunyi exercised her powers. However, the state filed a cross petition which Mr. Lungu challenges that the Attorney General cannot lodge a cross petition as there is no relief that it can legally seek against him as the promise of not to prosecute him was exercised by the DPP, who is not part of the current proceedings. When the matter came up for hearing this morning, the 27th of September 2022, Mr. Lungu, through his lawyers, argued that the Director of Public Prosecution is part of the government and that the Attorney General claiming relief from the Director of Public Prosecution is like a civil war. His further submissions that the challenge that the Attorney General is making is against the DPP, wondering then who would give instructions in an event the cross petition goes ahead, hence praying that the petition falls as it lacks merit. In this case, Mr. Milingo Lungu claimed to have negotiated for his freedom with President Hakainde Hichilema's principal private secretary, legal advisor, the Attorney General, Solicitor General, the Administrator General, and the Director of Public Prosecution, said his rearrest had no legal effect owing to the discontinuance of his criminal proceedings by the latter. However, in response, the state has argued that Mr. Lungu's purported immunity agreement is illegal and that the mere fact that the Director of Public Prosecution was part to the agreement does not mean the Attorney General cannot challenge the agreement. After hearing submissions from both parties, the court has reserved ruling to a date to be advised on whether it should dismiss the cross petition filed by the state. Miriam Kaimba, Reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Anti-Corruption Commission, SCC, has added 20 more charges on the initial 46 counts that it had recently slapped on former President EDGAR Lungu's economic advisor, Hibene Mwinga. In the matter, he is accused of being in possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime. The accused, 60, an economist, has been jointly charged with his 56-year-old wife, Messi Mwenda, a businesswoman, and 32-year-old son, Hakantu Mwinga. The charges of corruptly acquiring property are now 66, which the trio has denied. More in this report.
Former President EDGAR Lungu's economic advisor, Hibene Mwinga, was Tuesday morning forced to take fresh plea before the Lusaka's Magistrate Court following the Anti-Corruption Commission's decision to slap him and his co-accused with 20 more charges. Mr. Mwinga Sikisti, an economist, is jointly charged with his 56-year-old wife, Messi Mwenda, a businesswoman, and his 32-year-old son, Hakantu Mwinga, with charges of being in possession of property suspected of being proceeds of crime. They were first charged with 46 counts. However, when the matter came up this morning, the accused were informed that 20 more counts were added, making the charges go up to 66. The trio has maintained its earlier plea and denied all the 66 counts of being in possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime. According to a statement that was earlier issued by the Anti-Corruption Commission, the trio is alleged to have been in possession of property valued at over 41 million and over $238,900 cash. SCC in their testimony also disclosed that among the suspected proceeds of crime the trio is alleged to have corruptly gained include cash deposit of over 7.5 million kwacha in a company account, 27 motor vehicles valued at over 4 million kwacha, and a farm in Mwembeshi valued at over 12 million kwacha. The offences are alleged to have been committed between 2015 to 2016. The matter comes up on the 19th of October 2022. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Former President EDGAR Lungu's associate, FINDLAY, has been arrested and charged together with his wife for money laundering offense by the Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC. The couple appeared before the commission Tuesday morning, where they were charged with 1 count of money laundering and 1 count of gratification. Speaking to the media shortly after the interrogation, his counsel, Miuna Katolo, says the offences are in relation to monies that were received under a judgment which was obtained from the High Court, which judgment has not been appealed against or set aside. Meanwhile, Mr. Findlay is also expected to appear before the Anti-Corruption Commission, SCC, for interrogations tomorrow, the 28th of September 2022.
Arrests effected, bonded, and we are yet to be advised when the matter will go before court. So as we are going, we don't know when the matters will come up in court. We wait to be advised. That is the status.
What is the charge?
There's 1 charge for alleged money laundering, another charge for alleged gratification in relation to monies that were received under a judgment which was obtained from the High Court, which judgment has not been appealed against, the judgment has not been set aside, the judgment that has not been stayed. So, and it was initially obtained by another law firm, then the Findlay just took over the file. So how that constitutes money laundering, we are yet to see what evidence will be brought in court.
Is your client shaken? There was speculation that...
No, they're very, very calm. Very, very calm. They came on their own accord when they were summoned. They are fully cooperated.
You're watching Camnet Television and not just another channel. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
You know I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. Governance, Elections, Advocacy Research Services, GEAR's Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi says the repeal and replacement of the Penal Code Act number 42 of 1930 will go a long way in enhancing existing freedoms in the country, especially those that border on freedom of information. In an interview, Mr. Chipenzi says under this law, journalists have not been allowed to take photographs or videos of court proceedings, but this will now be a thing of the past. The GEAR's Executive Director notes that repealing and replacing the Act will entail an overhaul of the entire Act and not just a few segments, which is a good move. He was reacting to the recent approval by Cabinet to repeal and replace the Penal Code Act, which has had a number of repressive laws.
This law has been a thorn in the democratic dispensation, in the democratic process, and in democratic society like ours. We have sections that are greatly inimical to the growth of a sound democratic process in our country. One of them is the defamation of the president section, the prohibition of taking photographs in court and around the court premises, and yet the law clearly states that the court shall be accountable, the judiciary shall be accountable to the people. And when journalists are trying to operate and give evidence of what was happening in court, there are those laws within the penal code called the contempt of court, the prohibition of photograph. You have also the issues of defamation of foreign dignitaries and the queens and the princes and so on and so forth. All those are, and many others within the Act, are not good for democracy. But also we have progressive sections that are supposed to be maintained and strengthened, such as the outlawing, abhorring of homosexuality, natural acts, and indeed decent dressing and conduct. We feel that those must be strengthened in the new act.
The United National Independence Party, UNIP, has charged that there is no vacancy in the office of the party president. Party member of the Central Committee, Mubanga Chileshe, has told Camnet News that the courts had granted the Trevor Mwamba-led faction an injunction restraining the suspended party vice president Mike Kaira and suspended Secretary General Mwaiche Mulenga from masquerading as president and Secretary General, respectively. Mr. Chileshe says the injunction has restrained the suspended leaders and their agents to stop interfering with the smooth running of the party business affairs. He has since urged the general membership to continue with party mobilization at all levels of structures and is confident that the party will put their differences behind and unite.
We have been embroiled in a leadership wrangle the past few months, but thankfully the matter was taken to court by our acting party secretary general, Comrade Kenneth Kaira, over the conduct of suspended Secretary General Mulenga Mwiche and suspended Vice President Mike Kaira, who had continued insinuating that they are the rightful leaders of UNIP and that they had suspended our party president, Dr. Trevor Mwamba. But thankfully, the court has granted us an injunction in favor of Dr. Trevor Mwamba and his leadership, that is the rightful president for UNIP, and this dispels all the insinuations and the lies that were being propagated by the two suspended leaders.
Health Minister Sylvia Masebo has advised health authorities in Lusaka province to work closely with traditional leaders in order to reduce vaccine hesitancy and refusals in communities during the COVID-19 Round 2 vaccination campaign. Speaking during a stakeholders engagement meeting on national COVID-19 Round 2 vaccination campaign in Lusaka, Ms. Masebo said failure to involve traditional leaders in such programs will make it difficult to attain any tangible results. Ms. Masebo says traditional leaders form a key part of governance, infrastructure and implementation of emergency response policies at community level, hence the need to involve them. The minister said this in a speech read on her behalf by Lusaka Province Permanent Secretary Robert Kamalata.
In the context of scaling up COVID-19 vaccination in Lusaka Province, as we embark on the national campaign, as you are aware, the most important public measure to prevent COVID-19 is the vaccine. This year's theme is roll up your sleeve and get vaccinated. How do we ensure that all eligible population get vaccinated? Our task is to make it possible. As stakeholders, we need to raise awareness and clear demand for the vaccine and protect the community members from disease and death.
Still very important that when we go out there, we still tell our people that you have to get vaccinated because you can get very sick if you are not vaccinated. Other provinces have reached 70%. We know of 3 provinces that have already reached 70%. With Northwestern Province, Copperbelt Province, Central Province have already reached 70%.
Of COVID-19 into day-to-day lives and health systems as we look to recover and rebuild from the pandemic, the urgency to prioritize policies that will promote resilient health system is apparent. The Ministry of Health under the new Dawn government and the able leadership of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has prioritized formulation of new policies, developing new guidelines, standard operating procedures, as well as establishing provincial task forces and emergency operations center to provide operational coordination to respond to disease outbreaks such as COVID-19 pandemic, other emerging disease, and minimize negative impacts on the health system.
Kazungula Senior Agriculture Officer Tundu Kaonga said the bulking center to ease the marketing of farmers' produce is at more than 95% complete. Mr. Kaonga named the project that has constructed the bulking center as the Strengthening Climate Resilience in Agricultural Livelihoods in Agro-Eco Regions 1 and 2, SCRALA. He said the bulking, aimed at empowering the rural communities economically, is run by the Kawuyu Bulking Center Multipurpose Cooperative in Kazungula District. Mr. Kaonga told the National Agricultural Information Services, NABS, that the cooperative has signed a contract with the United Nations World Food Programme, WFP, to supply 10 metric tons of cowpea at a price of 18,000 kwacha per metric ton. For details, here is Lawrence Kawutu of NABS in Kazungula.
A United Nations Development Programme funded project in Kazungula has constructed a bulking center at a total cost of 131,000 United States dollars. Kazungula Senior Agriculture Officer Tundu Kaonga said the bulking center to ease the marketing of farmers' produce is at more than 95% complete. He named the project that has constructed the bulking center as the Strengthening Climate Resilience in Agricultural Livelihoods in Agro-Ecological Regions 1 and 2, SCRALA project.
The project has started supporting the construction of bulking centers, and in Kazungula we're privileged to have one that is been built at a cost of 131,000 US dollars. And it's at more than 95% complete.
Vice Chairperson for the Kawuyu Bulking Center Multipurpose Cooperative, John Luidu, said the cooperative chose a bulking center as opposed to any other alternative livelihood because they had a problem of marketing the agricultural produce.
Kunatwabika bulking center koti zichango zesu turakonza kunozisambara kamuturabapo tunozibika antomwe akuyanda ora basukonza kuziola mubunji nekwa kuti mundu jesoro kasaka komwe tusaka tuiteni twatubika antomwe turakonza kutusambara mubunji.
Beatrice Ngandu, a member of the cooperative, paid growing tribute to the government, WFP, UNDP and SCRALA project for coming to the aid of the communities in the area for them to engage in the aggregation of marketing their produce.
Kuli ba SCRALA mbuli echi chibakatwetera ano ikutuyakira bulking center. Tulalumba maningi nkamboka kuti twajana kuti ima businesses manji anova ano abusena.
Reporting, Lawrence Kawutu in Kazungula.
This is Camnet Television News. We'll take our second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. Rain Glow, your smart irrigation partner.
And now in international news, devastating floods continue to ravage farmlands, destroy crops, and force tens of thousands of people to abandon their homes across Nigeria. At least 300 people have died so far this year, and it is believed that some 100,000 people have been displaced and are now living in temporary shelters. The flooding has affected an estimated 500,000 people and destroyed infrastructure and farmland in 27 of Nigeria's 36 states and the capital city. Farmers face tough times. In the farming town of Tiga, 70 kilometers outside of Kano in the north of the country, people have been particularly hard hit. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
A young boy holding on desperately in the middle of a river as he waits to be rescued after being washed away by receding floodwater. Local residents are preparing to save him and others by ferrying boats across flooded areas. The farming town of Tiga, some 70 kilometers outside the city of Kano in northern Nigeria, is one of many areas affected by the worst flooding in years. At least 300 people have died so far, and the death toll is expected to rise. Rice farmer Adumugabe says they are calling on the government and international agencies to assist them. He asks them to show compassion and come to the aid of people in the region as they really need help. The floods have affected 500,000 people and infrastructure in 27 of Nigeria's 36 states and the capital city. Garba says this field has become barren. After the flood subsided, he says, the rice was killed and then another disaster occurred. The bridge was washed away by the rain, which deposited sand and broken bitumen, covering the entire field. Now we don't even have the field to plant crops in, he says. Some farmers have been able to salvage part of their harvest, like Kabiru Alassane and these children who, thrashing crops, they managed to save from the flooded paddy. Alassane says they were unfortunate to have experienced floods which washed sand from the road and covered their fields. This, he says, is the little they have left and which they're going to harvest, adding that the rains have never been this destructive. The floods are ravaging farmlands and have forced tens of thousands of people to abandon their homes, worsening fears of a disruption of food supply in Nigeria.
Scientists fighting malaria say they've managed to genetically modify mosquitoes to make them unable to spread the infection, which kills over 500,000 people each year. The UK researchers say the genetic changes cause mosquitoes to produce compounds in their guts, which stunts the growth of the parasite, which causes the disease.
This modification that we did makes them weaker because they live shorter. So it would be eliminated naturally by the natural selection. After a few generations, they will be eliminated. So there's no way to spread this modification in the field unless you combine it with what we call the gene drive, which is not what we have tested it here, but we have not really put it in its full implementation. So what you do is you combine this genetic modification with a driver, what we call a driver, which will take this modification and spread it quickly through the populations. So within a few generations, all the mosquitoes in the field, in an area where you release, they will become genetically modified.
Malaria is spread by a parasite, Plasmodium falciparum, which grows and reaches maturation inside the female Anopheles mosquito. It spreads when someone is bitten by an infected mosquito. Bushy forests and vast expanses of stagnant water are known to be breeding grounds for mosquitoes.
Blowing through the Cayman Islands, Hurricane Ian offers a taste of what is about to come for Cuba and the US mainland. The island's National Emergency Operations Center has now given the all clear as Ian heads across the Caribbean.
We may have to turn around.
The International Space Station showed the eye of the storm as it approached Cuba. With winds reaching 155 kilometers per hour, it made landfall in the west. There's a risk of widespread damage in a country already suffering an economic crisis. Then in Ian's path is Florida. It's more than a century since a storm like this last threatened the Tampa Bay area.
I think you're always worried when there's a storm coming your way, so we're doing the best we can to prepare. And if needed, we'll evacuate, or I will evacuate if I need to.
The problem here is that storms approaching from the south push huge amounts of water up into the shallow Tampa Bay, inundating homes and businesses with a storm surge up to 3 meters high. Many people decided to head out of town rather than endure the hurricane. Those sitting tight stocked up before heading home to batten down the hatches. With Ian approaching the US mainland, the federal government has declared a public health emergency for Florida that has a population of 21 million people. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera.
Let's now have some sports news. The Zambia senior men's national team has left Bamako after having played one international friendly match against Mali, with the second game being called off due to bad weather. Mali won Friday's match 1-0, played at the Stade du 26 Mars. The second match was called off after 16 minutes due to a heavy downpour. European-based players have flown back to their bases, with a local contingent and South Africa-based players leaving on the same flight. The FIFA window matches were organized as part of preparation for next match's Ivory Coast 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. To end Camnet television news, we'll take a look at stories making headlines once again. 8 bodies of the 13 Great East Road accident victims put to rest. NABS former President EDGAR LUNGU'S associate Vowden Findlay. Government clarifies on the Farmer Input Support Program conditions. In international news, over 300 people die in flooding in Nigeria. And in sports news, CHIPOLOPOLO boys wind up BAMAKO assignment. When I look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from Matthew 6, verse 33. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Thank you once again for watching the news. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.